The day started like any other. I was fishing from my dock, enjoying the quiet lake. Then Melissa Grant arrived. She marched down the dock, pointed directly at me, and announced that I wasn't allowed to fish there. Apparently, HOA rules said so. The problem was simple. I wasn't a member of her HOA. I never had been, and I never planned to join. That answer only made her angrier. She claimed everyone around the lake belonged to the HOA. I told her she should probably check the property records. Instead, Melissa called the sheriff's office. She reported that someone was refusing to follow HOA rules and demanded immediate action. A deputy arrived about 20 minutes later. Melissa greeted him like she'd already won. She was absolutely certain I would be removed. The deputy listened carefully. Melissa explained her complaint. Then he turned toward me and asked for my side. I handed him a folder. Inside were property maps, ownership records, and several lease agreements. The deputy studied the documents quietly. Then he looked at Melissa, then back at the records, and suddenly his expression changed. The lake wasn't owned by the HOA. Neither was the shoreline. In fact, the HOA sat on land covered by a long-term lease. Melissa couldn't believe it. She demanded the deputy explain. So he pointed directly to the ownership records, and everything became very quiet. That's when she learned the truth. I wasn't violating HOA rules. I wasn't part of the HOA at all, and the land beneath much of the community belonged to me. Melissa stared at the documents, then at me, then back at the deputy. She looked like she had just heard a foreign language. The deputy patiently explained everything. The HOA owned certain community facilities, but not the underlying land. That land belonged to my family trust. The original developer had signed a long-term ground lease decades ago. The community was built afterward. Most residents never knew, because the lease had quietly renewed for years. Then Melissa saw the payment records. Every year, the HOA paid rent, not directly to me, but to the trust that managed the property. Word spread quickly. Within hours, neighbors started showing up. Everyone wanted to see the records for themselves. The reactions were mixed. Some residents were surprised. Others were angry. Many wanted to know why nobody had told them. That evening, Melissa called an emergency board meeting. For the first time, the board had confronted the actual ownership records. The board hired attorneys immediately. They hoped there had been some mistake, a missing document, a recording error. A few days later, the attorneys returned with their answer. The records were valid. The lease was valid, and the ownership history was clear. For the first time, Melissa stopped arguing. The facts weren't changing, and neither were the county records. Residents demanded a public meeting. Questions came from every direction. People wanted transparency, and they wanted it immediately. Many homeowners felt blindsided. Some had lived there for decades. Yet few understood the community sat on leased land. Trust in the board began disappearing fast. What started as a fishing trip had turned into something much bigger. Melissa tried to use the HOA against me. Instead, she accidentally revealed who actually owned the land beneath her community. The pressure inside the HOA kept growing. Board members reviewed years of records. The more they investigated, the worse the situation appeared. That's when another discovery surfaced. The HOA had been paying lease fees for years. Most board members never noticed. They simply approved the budget every year. Board members started asking difficult questions. Why weren't homeowners informed? Why were the lease agreements ignored? And who was responsible for that decision? Residents demanded another public meeting. This time, they wanted complete transparency. No more assumptions. No more surprises. I attended the meeting, not to argue, not to embarrass anyone, just to answer questions honestly. Once residents understood the history, many realized the issue wasn't ownership. The issue was communication. They felt the board should have explained everything years ago.